Today we're going to talk about one of the most witty, one of the most sharp, one of the most productive vegetarians of all time. I'm talking about the giant of 19th and 20th century literature, George Bernard Shaw. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Threpticon. Today we're talking about a very outspoken vegetarian by the name of George Bernard Shaw. All right, so he was born way back in 1856 in Dublin. So he was known primarily as a playwright and as a music critic. And he was very prolific in these. He wrote dozens of plays. There were a lot of music criticism. And his most famous play was called Pygmalion, which was later made into a movie, My Fair Lady. Um, and vegetarianism was a major part of his public persona. Um, and he was active in vegetarian societies during his day. And he died in 1950 in England. So he was very long lived. He lived 94 years. So here this is from biography. Shaw's conversion to vegetarianism in 1881 was more than a trendy, cheap alternative to the badly boiled eggs he ate at home. His most famous pronouncement was to be a packed meeting of the newly formed Shelley Society, where he trumpeted that he was, like Shelley, quote, a socialist, atheist, and vegetarian. And it was not mere showmanship, because for Shaw, vegetarianism had links to the artistic, the political, and the religious. Not only did it fuel his great energy, vegetarianism was necessary in his quest for fragility. Fighting his appetite and watching his weight scrupulously, he attacked meat eating as a form of cannibalism. It was repugnant to his nature, the higher nature. He invested food and eating with ritualistic meaning, embracing vegetarianism the way saints embrace vigils and fasts. Avoiding alcohol, tea, and coffee, feasting on wheatmeal porridge and lentils, he became a missionary whose creed was celebrated with barley water. So here it's kind of tongue-in-cheek. He's kind of making fun of him, but he seemed to have had a very strong inclination, almost a moral duty. So he was interested in kind of staying slim as well, not overeating, um, which is interesting. We're going to see some contradictory stuff a little bit later, but once again, up to this point, we've studied a lot of religious fasting and vegetarianism, but here he claims to be an atheist like Shelley, and we'll have to dive into Percy Shelley at a later episode. But fascinating stuff. And sort of, like I said, related to everything in his life, politics, religious thought, and daily practice. So he was known for quotes, right? He was known as a wit. He was known for saying a lot of sharp, witty, funny things. So I just have some various quotes here. I was a cannibal for 25 years. For the rest, I've been a vegetarian. So that goes to show you the strong language he uses, calling himself cannibal. You know, one who eats animals is a cannibal. Man's inhumanity to man is only surpassed by his cruelty to animals. And I think we all have experienced that, seeing how cruel human beings can be to animals, with killing them, with eating them, the whole thing, breeding them. Atrocities are not less atrocities when they occur in laboratories and are called medical research. We still live in that world, that vivisection world. People experiment on rats. They fill them with all kinds of poison, mice. It's disgusting. A man of my spiritual intensity does not eat corpses. Once again, this one is kind of supposed to be humorous because, as he says before, you know, he declares he's an atheist. So here, kind of, he's being ironic. You know, my spiritual intensity. He doesn't believe in spiritual intensity, but anyway. But that then goes to show you the strong language he uses: eat corpses, with a great deal of disdain for the people who do that. And lastly, he says, animals are my friends, and I don't eat my friends, which is maybe one of the best quotes of all time. Very clear, very succinct, very memorable. I love it. All right. So here's a poem. We're just going to look at this poem really quickly. Living Graves by George Bernard Shaw. We are the living graves of murdered beasts, slaughtered to satisfy our appetites. We never pause to wonder at our feasts, if animals, like men, can possibly have rights. We pray on Sundays that we may have light, to guide our footsteps on the path we tread. We're sick of war, we do not want to fight. The thought of it now fills our heart with dread, and yet we gorge ourselves upon the dead. Like carrion crows, we live and feed on meat, regardless of the suffering and pain we cause by doing so. If thus we treat defenseless animals for sport or gain, how can we hope in this world to attain the peace we say we are so anxious for? We pray for it, or hecatombs of slain, to God while outraging the moral law. Thus cruelty begets its offspring, war. So once again, a lot to unravel here, but it's comparing meat eating to war in the last line there. The cruelty begets its offspring. He's talking about religious hypocrisy. You know, people that put their hands together to pray while they're eating dead, slaughtered animals at the table. I mean, how horrific. Comparing human beings to vultures, carrion crows, just eating on the dead, rotting meat of everything. And you say, you know, we have this compassion in us. Well, we can't stand the idea of war, yet we declare war upon nature every day. And once again, this trope of calling your body a grave, you know, you're burying the dead inside of it. Um, it's a very nice poem, very profound, right? And then I thought this was fun and interesting. Um, you know, he was long lived despite being a junk food vegetarian, though the biographer we saw at the beginning said he was eating lentils and stuff. This one claims the opposite. Anyway, however, talking about Shaw, his reports of the food he eats would not be considered too healthy today. Lots of eggs, fried omelets, egg salad, cheese, macaroni and cheese seem to be a staple diet, plus bread and cheese, milk. Once again, he's a very lacto-ovo vegetarian, not what we'd call a vegan today. Cream, butter, chocolate, sweets, toffee, barley sugar, ginger beer, lemonade, all with plenty of sugar, no doubt, unspecified soup, with occasional mentions of fruit, nuts, brown bread porridge, cake, buns, but very rare mentions of mushrooms, lentils, rice, etc. And this person says, hopefully he ate vegetables or beans, though he never mentions. I think he does at some point mention vegetarianism. He says, oh, vegetarians aren't people that just eat vegetables, no more than Catholics or people that eat cats. All right, he's making a joke. But I don't take it that he loved vegetables, which that's fine. It didn't matter. He lived a long life and a very, very productive life. And that's really all that matters. Um, so, anyway, that concludes our talk today. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.